So I would define price framing as displaying a price in a context. So basically you're showing it to other prices where you can perceive it as more expensive or as cheaper. Price anchoring, I would say it's relying on the principle that the first piece of information that you will get, and that can be a price, is going to be really, really important for you. And so you don't know what a product is worth, and the first thing you see, you will use that as your anchor, and you can set that anchor, and then everything you will do after it, you will base your decisions on that. It's difficult to estimate the value of a product, basically. So what is something worth? And
is it a good price, a fair price, or not? Yeah.
Yes, and what you see is that it's easier if you're comparing it to something else. And that is what you see a lot with price framing. So if you have a bag of 50 euros, yeah, is that expensive? Yes or no? Basically, it's really hard to tell. If you put a designer bag next to it from 2,000 euros, then it suddenly is getting cheap. If you're putting a plastic bag of 50 cents next to it, then it's getting expensive. And in that way, you can use framing basically to influence price perception. The first piece of information that you will see, and it can be a number, a random number, or a price, influences your price perception basically. It's really so, and I think because last time we talked about the whole average order value, so showing a first higher price influences how you perceive the prices coming afterwards.
Yeah.
So I think they found it also on menu cards. So if you start with a expensive first dish, then the average order value of the menu card is higher than when you start with a cheaper one, because everything that comes after will look cheaper, so to say.
Yeah, there's an interesting, there's a really interesting example in, there's a book called The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz, which is quite old now, not that old, but I highly recommend it. It's all the collection of psychology about how people choose. But he talks about a price, an anchoring and framing example. And in this case, it's somewhat manipulative because essentially it was Williams Sonoma, and they were making a bread maker, and the bread maker was something like $250.
Yeah.
And it wasn't selling. And this was happening in the physical resale stores as well as the website. And then in order to make that sell, they then produced a high-end bread maker of $450, which was made of chrome and shinier. And they put that on the shelf next to it. And what they found was that the sales, the high-end one didn't sell at all. They weren't expecting that. But the one that was $250 suddenly seemed a lot better value by comparison and started to sell much more.
It's a matter of framing. And what you see a lot of times is you see it with subscriptions as well. So you have like a really basic one, a normal one, and the premium one, and people tend to go to the normal one because it seems like the best choice. Yeah,
there's a tactic people use a lot, choosing from lists where you don't really know what you're doing. So choosing a bottle of wine from a wine list is a classic example. People will look through the list, they'll go to the cheapest one, and then they'll say, well, I don't want to buy the cheapest one, and they'll go one up from that.
Yeah.
So it's a good tactic for people who want to buy something but be sensible, but not too cheap, as they'll look at, and that's entirely based on the product selections.
If you're saying, hey, this jacket was 140 euros, but now it's 70, then it suddenly seems like a good deal, but you cannot lie about it. You need to be transparent, of course, otherwise.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you should be showing the customers the most likely products that they're going to want to get through search, because there's many other factors, right? So if you just say, oh, it's all about this, you're not going to be showing people the optimal results for their search, and you really need to be doing that too. So
yeah, no, of course, yeah. And price is also, it's one of the many choices you need to, so it's also not the one and only choice, of course. So you need
but would it be fair to say then it's a really useful thing when showing products to show a range of products with a range of prices, and just be mindful that when you're doing that people are going to be using that price range to make decisions about what's expensive as well.
Yeah. So, and there you can, so if you have a lister page, you can experiment with what works best, showing an expensive product first, or how are you going to build the listed page? Is it on popularity? Is it on price? So you can experiment with it.
Yeah.
Also, in what to put in your category. What are you doing with the cheaper products, the more expensive products, and how to display them?